It's a matter of insurance presented by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. The New Hampshire Insurance Department is a state agency that regulates the commercial insurance industry in New Hampshire. Have questions or need assistance with your coverage? Call our Consumer Services Division at 1-800-852-3416 or email consumerservices@ins.nh.gov. Learn more about us by visiting nh.gov/insurance. I'm A.J. Kiersa, the Consumer Outreach Coordinator at the department. This episode features a legislative update from Acting Commissioner D.J. Bettencourt and an interesting change to the Life Insurance Wellness Rewards Bulletin from Steve Nottinger. But first, we're going to start with something new. I spoke with Tracey Benkosky of Lee, New Hampshire. She experienced difficulties with receiving coverage for her son's desperately needed medication for a neurological condition. She worked with the department's Consumer Services Division and tells her story and how we were able to assist her.
My son has a condition called PANDAS or PANS, and it's an autoimmune condition where when he experiences an infection, his body makes antibodies that attack his brain mistakenly instead of the infection. And he has suffered from this since he was 3. Unfortunately, it took us a really long time to figure out what the issue was and then find him proper treatment. It is a treatment that insurances are very reluctant to pay for, and it's been such an issue that bills have been passed in many states that mandate that insurance covers this treatment. New Hampshire is one of those states. We testified on 2 separate occasions at the State House to have a bill passed, and there was one passed. So technically, insurance should have to pay for this coverage. Our doctor has put in for our son to have IVIG on 3 separate occasions. The first occasion was prior to the bill being passed. The other 2 occasions were after the bill was passed. On all 3 occasions, our insurance denied it. We were at the end of the road. There were no other treatments that we could try with my son. The fact that insurance would not cover this treatment was just adding to an already agonizing and stressful situation. We had been denied. Our doctor was trying to appeal. And I also reached out to our state senator's office to see if there was anything that they could do. They put me in touch with Deputy Commissioner Bettencourt, and I spoke with him. He was familiar with the situation. He had also been helping other families that were in the same situation, dealing with trying to get insurance coverage for IVIG. And then he put me in touch with Keith Nyhan, who's the Director of Consumer Services. And on our behalf, they started to communicate with our insurance provider. We had been fighting with the insurance company for 6 weeks when I was told that the peer-to-peer review was denied. And at that point, we would have to go to an external review. And I've heard of people being in that process for up to a year. And at that point, my son hadn't been able to attend school regularly for 2 months. We didn't have a year. He was a freshman in high school. He wasn't able to live his life. He normally participates in crew. He was not able to do that. He was just, his life was passing him by. So on the same day that we got the word that the peer review had been denied, I got a call from the Department of Insurance saying that they had been able to work it out with Anthem and that somebody from Anthem was going to be calling me to set up the treatment. And we went from the depths of despair to just, it was such amazing, wonderful news, because my son was going to get his treatment. I was, not going to have to keep fighting with insurance for the next year, which put such a strain on my family. Just something else that was happening in my family. I had just returned to work full time after cancer treatment. So I was also under, a lot of stress of just returning to work. I'm a teacher. So I was, there's that stress. Every family has their own version of stress, but we were at a particularly tough time in my family where we already had our plates overflowing. I have a daughter. So to have to spend all this time and energy that we just did not have fighting for something that we shouldn't have to fight for, the assistance from the department was just, I can't even express how grateful we are for it. I would highly recommend that other families who are struggling to get insurance coverage reach out to the department. They were wonderful to work with. Their ability to talk with the insurance companies directly was just amazing. And our family is just very grateful for all the assistance that we received.
If you have problems with your coverage, please be sure to contact the Consumer Services Division at 1-800-852-3416 or emailing consumerservices@ins.nh.gov. I'm now joined by Acting Commissioner D.J. Bettencourt. First of all, congrats on the at least temporary step up to the big seat, and excited to have you talk about our legislative work over the first half of the year. The House has quieted down for the summer, and now we get to see what results we have.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, AJ. It was a successful legislative session for the department, and that is in no small part due to the fact that we've built such a great reputation and such great relationships with the legislature. You know, we don't have just the commissioner or the deputy commissioner go before the legislature. We think the much better approach is to have the subject matter expert in this department on that issue go and talk to the legislature. And as a result, that's built up great trust, so that when we appear before the legislature, whether we're advocating for a bill that we want to see pass, or we've been invited by the legislature to opine on a piece of legislation, they know that what they're getting from us is good quality information that they can rely on. In terms of bills that the department put forward this year, there wasn't anything with too much sizzle. We dealt with a lot of housekeeping items. We dealt with some good housekeeping measures to streamline our processes and procedures to make the department easier and more business friendly for the industry and for consumers to interact with. The major piece of substantive legislation that we're excited about, and I've talked about it before, is the pet insurance law that we've put in place that brings to a new and rapidly emerging insurance product some of the same rules of the road for consumer protection that we have for all other insurance products. So we're excited about that one. That one should be signed into law by Governor Sununu any day now. But because of the unique composition of the legislature right now, with the House of Representatives in particular being so evenly divided between the parties, the legislature made somewhat of an informal agreement that if there was an issue that was controversial or that required a lot of work, that what they would do is see if they could hang on to the bill for the summer, try to work through their issues, and then see if they could find compromise as we headed towards January, when all of the bills that the legislature hung on to from the previous year then have to bring forward. And so what that means is we've got a lot of summer homework to do. Things from trying to convince the legislature to provide this department with the authority that the federal government is offering to delegate to states to enforce the No Surprises Act, which deals with balanced billing issues. We've talked about that. Another hot button issue that's going to get quite a bit of talk this summer is extending balance billing protections to ground ambulance. We're going to actually be hosting a summit here at the department later this summer to bring both parties together, the carrier and the carriers and the EMT folks, to see if we can't start working towards a solution, whether it be that particular piece of legislation or something else. But it's definitely a serious issue that needs to be dealt with. The state continues its commitment to see how we can better improve our mental health and SUD services. And so there's talk about how we can potentially move forward with some legislation that better integrates care, integrates those services with other services that the individual needs. And then there's also discussion about prompt pay for carriers paying the medical providers the bills in a timely manner. Those are all summer homework things that are going to take up quite a bit of our time. As we look to 2024, we're still in the early stages here of the department of assessing what changes we would like to bring forward. We're looking at some things related to healthcare sharing organizations and thinking about how we can better protect consumers in that realm. We're also looking at consumer guarantee contracts. We've seen some real issues that need to be addressed here in New Hampshire. And so those are two big things that I foresee on the horizon, as well as some other things too that we're still going to talk through. But our approach is always very collaborative. Anytime we're going to propose a bill to the legislature, we put our draft out for the industry and for interested citizens and stakeholders to take a look at and provide us with feedback. They're not dictating the language, of course, but it does allow them to provide us with feedback that sometimes makes us assess whether or not we could write the bill better, or whether there was something that we didn't consider before that we should consider now. And it's helped us to have a very smooth process before the legislature. And in a lot of cases, we're able to walk into the legislature with our idea, with consensus and support already formed around our proposal. And so that process is going to continue throughout the summer and into the fall. And hopefully it's going to put us on a good footing for a successful 2024.
And we'll definitely be following all these matters on the podcast. Definitely suggest you check out our monthly webinar series also, especially as laws get signed in, like the pet insurance law. When that does get signed, that will definitely be a webinar and a whole outreach effort here at the department. And excited to see what's next for the rest of the year. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Nottinger, the administrative hearings judge for the New Hampshire Insurance Department, on the show to discuss the recent bulletin revision we've published regarding life insurance wellness rewards programs. To start off with, what is the role of a bulletin in the department?
The role of the bulletin is to give the industry some guidance on how they can proceed with various issues that come up under the insurance laws.
Do they tend to change very often?
They change somewhat often. I mean, we review the bulletins every few years to see if the bulletins are consistent with current practice or whether they need to be amended.
So it's a big reference point for industry to really know, like, this is the direction we feel like you need to be going in.
That's right.
What are life insurance wellness rewards programs?
Traditionally, people think of life insurance, they buy it, and then they really have no contact with the life insurance insurer really until they die or someone else dies. What's happened recently is that the life insurance companies have gotten into the wellness business. And what they've done is they've incentivized people to exercise or get flu shots or do things that are healthy. And as a result, they can get not only reduced premiums, but they can get some items like Fitbits or Apple Watches or other things for meeting certain metrics under their life insurance plan. So they end up having a consistent relationship with the life insurance company rather than the old way where they just paid premiums for years and then, when they died, there was a claim. So it's a completely different way of doing things.
What did the original bulletin look to address regarding these?
The original bulletin we had from 2017 tended to address issues involving actuarial types of analysis, how long you lived, how the information was used that the life insurance company got from you. Could they use it to do something sinister? Would your employer get the information? So it was very protective.
So what's changed and what led to us making this change?
There's been a change in the industry and in how it relates to its customers, and we wanted to be on top of that. So we've changed the bulletin to make it easier for the life insurance companies to set up these programs, particularly in New Hampshire. I think we can see this as a way of the future where these insurance plans are going to be more proactive in dealing with their customers and setting up ways for people to get benefits or reduced premiums as they get healthier. So I think this is the future.
Goal of the department is to make sure we have a healthy marketplace for insurance for consumers, and it seems like a step in that direction.
That's true.
Anyone wants to check out the bulletin, I'll link to it in the episode description on our podcast feed, and it's also available at nh.gov/insurance. Thank you for listening to A Matter of Insurance presented by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. You can subscribe to the show on all major podcast platforms, and now you can find the video version on YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and always remember that we are here to help. If you have problems with your insurance, call the Consumer Services Unit at 1-800-852-3416 or email consumerservices@ins.nh.gov.